if we are being visited, how many different civilizations do you think are visiting us? Because if there's all these different characteristics that these beings have, if some of them look like tall, albino, almost like human beings with large eyes, some of them look like the Greys, some of them look like dwarfs.
Yes, and that's an embarrassment of riches in a way.
Right.
Of course, that opens a question, is it a simulation? And Rizwan Work has published a couple of books about that. He's a friend of ours, and Dr. Nolan, and we've had many conversations about that. We could be living in a simulation of sorts, where the people running the simulation might send whatever they want. I mean, it would be like a video game.
Right.
So all of a sudden you've got a new... But that's not completely... You can only go so far. In fact, first reaction is, but look at the detail. We can't reproduce a detail on that scale. That's true, but, wait 10 years and we'll be able to do it. I mean, with quantum computing and all that. So that's not a good argument. It's it's an okay argument now, but it doesn't stand the test. The other argument is, who would be doing it and why? I mean, that's true that there are some strange things. I mean, the fact that the moon is exactly the size to hide the sun.
Yeah.
It's exactly
perfectly.
30 minutes of arc,
yeah,
like the sun. So it gives us total eclipses, and it gives us a measuring tool. The Greeks knew roughly how far the sun was with respect to the moon. They knew the ratio of the distances. They didn't get the exact distance, but they already knew that because they had done the math, the geometry. So that's pretty strange, I mean,
and it also protects our environment,
and
by
there are
keeping us
lots of
stable.
things on Earth that seem to be accidental, that are just right for us to exist.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not completely happy with that explanation.
Nor am I. I'm not happy with it, but it's very compelling. What's fascinating to me is that it is inevitable that if technology advances the way it is currently within maybe even our lifetime, or within another lifetime, another 100 years, we will most certainly have an artificial reality that's you cannot discern, indiscernible between that and the reality we currently experience.
Yes.
So if that's inevitable, you would kind of assume that perhaps it's already taken place. And if it had already taken place, it would probably be very similar to what we're experiencing, whereas enough of it seems fake and enough of it seems scripted, enough of it seems very coincidental how things line up, that it almost does seem like a simulation sometimes.
Well, but there are also things that are strange, but that we could research, that we are doing a very bad job of researching. Now, if those things can, just jump out of our universe and go somewhere else, that rewrites the whole thing. We're not talking about propulsion the way we think about propulsion. We're not talking about, environment. We're not talking the passage of time, in the same way that, I would experience with my watch and so on. We're talking about something that the rules are different. And we need to go up and start thinking along those rules, or at least the possibility of those rules. It doesn't prove that there is another universe 5 minutes ahead of us, but there could be. And then all the papers that they publish saying there couldn't be flying saucers because there isn't life, closer than 2,000 light years from us, and it
Right.
would take, at the speed of light, it would take 2,000 years to come here. Well, there could be another universe 5 minutes ahead of us. It would take them 5 minutes to get here, okay?
Right.
So that would explain why we have visitations throughout history, and they look the same throughout history, because our technology, this technology or this microphone didn't exist 20 years ago.
Right.
It's a new microphone. And there were no microphones, 200 years ago, there were no microphones at all.
Right.
So how come those things look the same? How can we compare them to something somebody saw in the 18th century?
Right. Right.
That shouldn't happen. Unless their technology is stuck.
Right. Yeah, that is a fascinating aspect of it, right? You would expect that if you thought about how fast our technology evolves, technology from 1947 from some other planet would be exponentially more advanced than what we experienced in 47. Be just based on how our technology evolves.
And you'll have to think, we think about an aircraft in ways completely different. There are things that, yes, it came from the Wright brothers and so on, and there were speculation before on how you could fly. But what an aircraft does today is radically different. The whole physics is different.
And we're only talking about 100 and some years ago, which is pretty crazy. You go from this thing that Wilbur and Orville Wright, kind of like get it to take some air for a little bit, to the Chinese jet, which is disguising itself from radar and travels at insane speeds. And then the possibility of other propulsion systems that have been kept under wraps.
Or to the Harrier that stays.
Yes, and then lands like that. Yeah. No, just the technology that we know that we're aware of over the last 200 years is pretty extraordinary. And if you imagine something from somewhere that's had thousands of years to evolve past us,